maybe instead of parliamentarians being cabinet secretaries, make CSs ex-officio members of the National Assembly in the referendum. These guys just want the jobs for themselves.
First of all, in the area of cost, it is very expensive. This system is very expensive.
Which one? The one you have?
The one we have. If cabinet secretaries are members of parliament, it would be less expensive, because the only thing they would be entitled is additional allowance, responsibility allowance. But you see now, members of parliament are being paid their own salary. These guys are being paid humongous salaries, actually, which actually we have never focused on. So this, again, in the area of course, if we are going to look at taming the wage bill, one approach is this one.
Yeah, apart from the wage bill, I think Kenyans are also oblivious of the fact that on this panel, the only member of parliament is Sam Atandi. I'm not a member of parliament, but I'm thinking of a practical thing. I was a member of parliament for 20 years. I may not be a member of parliament again, and I'm not looking for a job of a CS. If I was to go back to parliament, I may not want to be a CS. I may want to be the leader of majority or the leader of minority. So this is the problem with Kenyans. They are so intolerant that they are not listening to us.
Well, but they're entitled to their views.
No, but you see, they should not be intolerant that we are looking for jobs.
No. Another one is saying that leaders should be sincere, not changing tactics. Mcheza kwao from Siaya. Hakuna ubaya kubadilisha katiba. Another one is saying that if a party wins it takes all ministers and parastatals. This is wrong.
You see, one of the things, even as we say, we must think deep and hard about how to implement the new constitution that we will have, if we will have it. Because it does not solve the issue of winner takes all. Winner takes all with his people. Listen, you know, when there was the, you know, President Uhuru Kenyatta is ethnic Kikuyu, right? But there were people who ran against the grain like David Ndii. Do you think that if David Ndii were appointed a minister in Uhuru's cabinet, do you think that the people in the greater central province will feel that their interests are taken care of on that table? Or, let's put it, before the handshake, when we had Raphael Tuju, he was probably, you know, an insider in the regime then, probably not a minister. But even if he had been a minister without the handshake, would he have represented? Do you think the Luo community would appreciate him as being a representative of their views and aspirations?
They would
no.
not.
So still we are going to have the same problem. You're still going to have a lineup that wins and a lineup that loses. These lineups have all these ethnic groups. Whether they will feel part and parcel of these governments is another thing altogether. That is why my emphasis is laid some on the spirit of the Constitution. We need to sort out the problem of negative ethnicity at a lower level than just changing the Constitution. Yes, we will change the Constitution. And yes, it will afford us opportunity to have our people on the table.
I disagree with
But I think we fundamentally still have a problem that needs to be solved.
I want to disagree with you.
Just before you disagree with him, because I'm sure you do, when you talk about Akikuyu representing the interest of Central Kenya, as a country, are we looking for our ethnic representation in terms of appearance, or are we after service delivery?
No, this is what I have said. The reality of this country, Sam,
that's what I'm saying,
is that we are more inclined to appreciating ethnic groups and our fellow men and women in these positions.
Is it a fair
if they
thing
are fired, as you see,
country?
It's not a fair thing. I'm being real. The ideal thing would be to have service delivery. That is why you would have picketing when a few of my brothers from Kalenjin land are fired from parastatal jobs. We know, and there is evidence, at least adduced to the effect, that they are corrupt. But still you will have the problem of our sons are being fired. We have to resolve the issues of ethnicity at a more fundamental level so that we appreciate Kenyans for who they are, not for which tribe they belong to.
You know, Sam, what happened at independence is that we refused to slay the dragon called tribalism. It has been with us for 60 years. We are trying to exceed tribalism. by even intermarriage like our good friend here. But the truth of the matter is that it is still with us.
It is.
And therefore we must manage this transition. Yeah. This is a society in transition, and these are transitional realities that yes, we are still ethnic, but how can we move away from ethnicity? Today, if you come from Luo Nyanza, or even if you come from Rift Valley, the Kalenjin Rift Valley, and you are not in Jubilee, you are seen to be an alien in your own home. So these are some of the...
But your appointment as a minister at that time, how representative was it for your ethnic community?
It is not entirely representative, but you just go to the offices of ministers at the time. You realize in my office, you will find 80% are likely to be Kalenjins. The rest are people of Trans Nzoia because I come from Trans Nzoia. And the 80% Kalenjin don't necessarily come from Trans Nzoia. They come from the rest of Rift Valley. And so forth. If you went to Mheshimiwa Kimunya's office, you would find many of them are likely to be from Central Kenya, and so forth, because people feel safe with one of their own. What we are saying is that we are not curing the problem, but we are trying to make an attempt to run away from the problem as we try to solve it.
Before he responds. Let me just clarify this before he responds. what I mean, because, and Mheshimiwa Kirwa, I agree, but you see what Uhuru and Raila have tried to do in building the Bridges Initiative. There needs to be emphasis on this thing that is attempting to be done by these two leaders. Before we get to the Constitution, if we let this moment of building bridges, of truly building bridges, of trying to, break down the walls of ethnicity, and we wait to resolve this in the constitutional change, we will have lost the more fundamental moment of reform. The moment of saying, you know what, we disagree, and the people behind us, majorly our ethnic groups, disagree. But we need to sit down, brother to brother, sister to sister, sister to brother, and vice versa, and talk about, is this the country we want? My emphasis is on what is trying to happen, which others may rubbish as merely political. But the Building Bridges Initiative showed the rare opportunity of embracing one another, regardless of our ethnic extractions. Now, if we do not do that and appreciate each other for who we are, more than for our tribes, and we wait that the constitution change and referendum will sort it out, it will not entirely cure it. What we have now is a bigger solution. Structurally, it may present then an opportunity of inclusivity, but it's more the software to be fixed than the hardware, and the constitutional change is hardware.
What's the disagreement?
I was going to lose my point. Now,
you've been writing, so
David said that that in its entirety, the question of inclusivity may not be seen to be happening if we do not check the software as he brings it out. But my point was that if you appoint somebody like Tuju, for instance, in your government, obviously he does not represent the interests of our region.
Why?
That's a fact, because he does not have the mandate. We don't see him as our leader because he is not an elected leader in our region. So he cannot represent us. Same as David Ndi would not represent Central Province.
That's what I was
saying. These are facts. And there's no reason why they should be appointed to represent us, because they are strangers.
What if he's a performer?
He's not. No, you see, we are talking about representation. We are saying that we want to see a face of government that represents every section of this country. So if I see a stranger and you want to say that that one represents my region, that cannot work. For instance, in this cabinet we have people like Dr. Omam, the Minister for...
Rachel Omam.
She doesn't represent our interests because, first of all, she doesn't come to her. We don't see her in our region.
Now you see what I meant?
So what we are saying in short is that if you want somebody to represent our region, then you must get somebody we are familiar with. Are you getting that point? Because you are representing us in government.
Tandi, how many Kenyans do we have? The census will be conducted in August 2019. Let's assume we have 45 million Kenyans. Maybe the adults are about, let's say the voters, 19 million registered voters. These are people based on qualification, can be cabinet secretaries. Of course, it's not every single person of these 19 million people that are known by the ethnic communities. So what are you saying about people who disagree with the political grain of a certain region?
They should not represent us.
Why?
Like, for instance, let me give you a simple example.
But they are qualified under the Constitution.
Let me give you
that discrimination based on
that
their
is
political
not politics.
beliefs?
That's something else. That's not politics. That's maybe corporate. But we are talking about politics, my brother.
No.
That you can do in the corporate arena.
I am guided by the Constitution that talks about you should not be discriminated based on certain things, including political inclination.
Can you also answer me? Why do you think that immediately Raila Odinga shook hands with Uhuru, the entire region, our region, began to embrace the government? Why didn't we embrace the government when Tuju and the rest were appointed to cabinet?
That's what I meant. This is exactly what I meant.
This is politics is different from corporate.
No, politics is fine.
Yes.
All of it, okay.
Yeah. You know,
some,
yes. We either have to embrace a democracy or we embrace another system which is not democracy. And democracy is about people. And it's about people participating with the knowledge of what they are doing, fully informed of where they have come from. And therefore, if you are going through a democratic process, let people have the perception that whoever has been appointed is representing their region. Now, look at this handshake. When there was handshake between the president and the former prime minister, people from my region said this handshake is not complete. We have forgotten the first handshake between Uhuru and Ruto. And for that handshake to be complete, the three of them must be on the same table. Then Musalia, on the other side, and the team, they are saying they are not part of the handshake.
Yes.
So it is something that we must appreciate.
Okay.
That when we are saying all-inclusive, everybody must feel is at the table, either in person or represented by one of their own.
And the reason why we want somebody we know to represent us is not because he cannot perform, the other person cannot perform. But you know, there are issues in power that we are expecting. We are expecting somebody who understands us, who knows our issues, the person we can reach and tell our issues and get solutions.
Okay.
And that is the reason why we want somebody we know to sit on.
Okay,
so Mheshimiwa Tandi doesn't disagree with me.
Yeah, we all agree.
Clarifies what I said, that there is a fundamental problem of appreciating people regardless of their diverse opinion and being tolerant to people's views. And that will not be resolved by the constitutional change. So we need to wire our country a bit better, to work on the software, to build true bridges, you know, across all ethnic groups, and say, brother and sister, this is the country we want. Until and unless we do that, we are going nowhere. But in the meantime, I think I still want to see heads roll in the cabinet for this corruption we see. Some of these issues cannot be allowed to go on to obtain for too long.
I want to thank the viewer that gave us that text that these guys just want the jobs for themselves. It's quite reignited a conversation here. Dr. Jane Omwenga on Twitter says that tell those panelists to give us a break. They want positions created for greedy politicians, and yet we have majority people who cannot afford a meal a day. Punguza mzigo. Corinne Fred says that the quest for a referendum has no interest of the people. If only we could follow the latter, the laws that we currently have, Kenya would be way better. I think he means if we could follow to the letter the laws that we have. We can look at some of the SMSs that are coming through 22422 and see what Kenyans are saying online. Anonymous, you don't leave your name. The government doesn't consist of only two communities. Someone else, no. Cabinet ministers should be politicians because all they will do is... should not be politicians because all they'll do is nothing but campaign for 5 years. They should remain technocrats, otherwise we'll be moving 3 steps forward and 2 back. Wow, that's pretty small. Let me see if I can... Okay, Honorable Atandi's assertions on the push for referendum gives one every reason to believe that politicians should not be allowed to run away with this debate. The over 7 million unemployed young Kenyans should be front runners to enable them be empowered to deal with their challenges, depending on when the numbers favor, selfish tactics will Pivotalers, that's a verb. Into a merry-go-round, depending on when the numbers favor particular elites. The same elites mutate to cartels at some point.
Let's
comment from Eldred.